tipped around and has become an ascent. The angels descending and ascending. So that through that moment of perception, the meaning and the experience, because meaning and experience are very much the same thing, the meaning and the experience of the crisis has changed. So we move from panic to peace. And with that perception, a new kind of knowledge has been generated through the crisis. A wisdom, or a divine way of knowing, we might say. Be still and know that I am God, it says in the Psalm. And it's this relationship between crisis and stillness that I think is important for us to ponder on for a while. And it's in that relationship that we see the meaning of meditation. St. John Climacus, in that work I mentioned, The Ladder of Divine Ascent, says that whoever has achieved stillness, the Greek word is hesychia. It's the same word that Jesus uses, which is translated usually as rest. Come to me, all you who labor, and I will give you rest. But it could also be translated as, come to me, all you who labor, and I will give you stillness, or I will give you peace. Whoever has achieved stillness, hesychia, has arrived at the very center of the mysteries. St. John Climacus says. Whoever has achieved stillness has arrived at the very center of the mysteries. This knowledge arises if we find the still point in the situation, if we find the hub of the spinning wheel. And it's a new quality of wakefulness. It's when Jacob awakens from his sleep that he understands where he has been and what has happened to him. And at first he experiences fear and dread at the magnitude of the experience he's gone through. But he also finds in God's promise to him a centeredness, a stillness that gives him the energy and the balance and the integration to get on with his life and his destiny. So out of this stillness at the center of the crisis comes a new knowledge. We know that we are no longer in control. Things are falling apart all around us, emotionally, financially, medically. We're falling apart, we've lost control, but at the still point, which is always there, we can find serenity and peace. I remember a few years ago I was driving on a busy highway in London, in England, with 3 other people. I was driving, and it was the rush hour. We were coming into the city, and suddenly something snapped in the axle of the wheel, and the steering wheel was no longer relating to the wheels of the car, and we were just weaving from one side of the busy highway to the other. Just amazing. We hit another car or hit the tree. We stopped about 5 yards from the tree. And the amazing thing is and everybody woke up, not surprisingly, including me. And yet there was an amazing stillness. The anxiety, the fear, the sort of the trembling aspect of it, realizing how close we were to a major disaster. That didn't really hit us, or hit me anyway, at the time, at that instant. At that instant, even though I knew I'd lost control, I felt a great peace, a great tranquility. So the still point is always there. And if we have the grace to be able to stay in touch with that still point, even in the midst of the crisis, then we integrate what is happening, we integrate the deconstruction that is taking place, and we grow through it. Does our religious practice or belief prepare us for this experience of crisis? Or does our religious belief and practice keep us stuck in the attempt of remaining in control at all times and in all situations? It's a different use of religion or religious practice and belief. And I think we need to understand what kind of religion we are involved in. Is it the kind of religion or religious practice that that keeps us in touch with this still point and enables us to remain centered in it through the crises of life? Or is it the kind of religion that is in denial of crisis when it happens, because it is so committed to keeping us and our ego in control? Because quite obviously a crisis is a time, an opportunity for the knowledge of God to arise, for us to experience God in ways that we wouldn't have done before, which we can't as long as we remain in the illusion of being in control. And religion can be used for one or two ends. One is to prepare us for that moment of grace when we lose control but can grow, or to remain in control for as long as possible and to deny, actually to reject the holiness of the moment. Well, one way of finding out which kind of religion we've got, I think, is to look at our prayer and our spiritual practices, if we have any. Most people have some spiritual practices, even if they don't have religious practices. The control mechanism of religion is perfectionism. And perfectionism is a funny state of mind. There's something in us quite innately that predisposes us and sensitizes us to having things right. If you walk into a room and you see there's a painting on the wall that's hanging crooked, and you're left alone in the room for a few moments, what do? Actually, half the world will go and put the picture straight, and the other half will just look at it but feel that it's wrong. But either way, I think we're aware that it's imperfect. There's something in us that has a natural sense of proportion and symmetry. We recognize what is truth and what is deliberate lies. We recognize we may have different aesthetics, but we recognize what is beautiful and what is ugly, morally speaking. So perfectionism is inherent in us. From the Christian perspective, it's because we are created